Dice Company contains fantasy violence, mature themes, and unapologetic bickering. No feelings were hurt in the making of it, but listener discretion is advised. Dice Company will always be free, but it's not free to make. Please consider supporting us on Patreon or Apple Podcasts and get access to our weekly roundtable show Extra Roll. Just follow any of the links in the show notes for this chapter.
The powerless Sterling smashes into the ground. In the galley, Augustus, you are knocked to the floor as through the glowing Jarima sapling tumble Bennie, Tock, and Bardol Schultz.
Bardol, Bennie, it appears we are on the Sterling. The journey was successful.
I'm upside down, Tock. Is this successful?
Tock, Bennie, Bardol, where did you come from?
From the Jarima tree, Augustus. Tock will gesture back at the small glowing sapling on the shelf.
Augustus stares at the Jarima tree, knowing that his eyes have just seen that, but not being able to make sense of it.
Hello, Augustus. Sorry, ship looks terrible. That hurt, oddly. And we just got fired out of a small tree. I think that summarizes roughly what just happened in the last couple of seconds. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Bardol. We've had an interesting night of our own, couple of murders, and we crashed about 5 seconds ago.
Ah, yes, it does look rather nasty around here. Broken, smashed.
Also, my sister turned into several people, and then some sort of moon-faced creature, and threw herself off the ship.
After the day we just had, I wasn't expecting someone to have had a weirder one, but kudos, well done.
Yes, I do believe we could compete with you in day weirdness.
Bennie kind of unfolds himself from the corner that he'd found himself in and calls himself to his feet. Is this one the dream, do you reckon? I thought the last one was the dream, but maybe this one's the dream? Someone, I don't know, pinch me again or something, just to be sure, because...
Tock will raise a heavy armoured fist towards Bennie.
Bardol, how about you?
Bardol lightly slaps Bennie across the face.
Augustus just reaches his face out to Bardol for a slap as well.
And with the return of the backhand, a front hand slap to Augustus.
Okay, Tock is going to imitate Bardol and moves to do a backhand and a front hand to,
No, thank you,
Bennie
Tock.
and Augustus.
Stand down.
I'm unaware of this human greeting.
Not a greeting, Tock. Where have you been, gentlemen? We've missed you. But we gave your room away, Bennie.
What?
Long story. Impossible. Our hands were tied. Anyway, how have you been?
We have been on a separate plane of existence via butterfly squirrel.
Augustus's eyes just slide out of focus. Lift music plays in his head, and he just tips over sideways.
We joined a hare in fighting wooden automatons without metal coverings.
Hang on. Did you just say we crashed like 5 seconds ago?
35, 40 seconds now, I'd say.
Do you reckon it's worth stopping chatting about weirdness and maybe see if everyone's all right?
Sounds like a wonderful plan.
That seems like a fine idea, Bennie, yes. Yes, is Vander firstly okay? It seems that any kind of crash would have decimated his frail body, but...
I should imagine you'll find him at the helm.
Well, let's go find out, eh?
And you guys head up onto the poop deck where you find...
Vander sits up from a prone position and opens his eyes for the first time since the crash. As he looks back at the helm, he can see the trajectory he took at the time the airship hit land, and can see that he went straight through the great helm itself, over the poop deck, and is now lying face down on the deck. He dusts himself off.
A rather successful crash landing as these things go. Only an admiral could have achieved it,
He says, looking around for effect.
Bella, are you all right?
So you just see Bella is kind of like curled up in the corner, almost like holding, like a mother holding this chinchilla trying to protect it. And she just looks up and goes, "Are we alive? Did we make it? Who are all these people?"
Ah, you protected the chinchilla. How useful,
Vander says, taking in the rest of the group. And at that point, he realizes that Bardol, Bennie, and Tock are also present.
My God, how did you come to be here?
They exploded out of a tree, Vander.
I see.
Hello, Mustang. Nice to see you. I had to save some of these chaps in Concordia. I pulled for a terrible vortex from my wonderful skyship, and now I've landed here as your wonderful skyship seems to have taken a little bit of a slip in a bag, eh? And hello, young lady. I am Bardol Schultz. But of course you knew that.
Of course. Hello. I'm Bella. It's lovely to meet you.
The pleasure is all mine.
This is my chinchilla.
Hello, chinchilla.
Maybe temporarily, though. I don't know how long it will stay as a chinchilla.
I see.
It was a person. Kind of a long story.
It seems to be going around. We have a stone squirrel in a bag over there, so...
Tock will, out of his bag of holding, will start to produce the petrified statue of Squirrel, and will set it upon the deck. Vander, Augustus, Bennie, Bardol, Bella, this may be a problem. Squirrel is supposed to be in sanctuary.
I see, says Vander, staring unseeingly at the squirrel.
Well, it appears there are quite a few tales to tell from every quarter. May I suggest we first survey our surroundings, as I am unfamiliar with the landscape. Perhaps we are in danger. It's best we check we aren't. And Vander shuffles to the edge of the ship to peer across the landscape.
Augustus seems to have taken leave of his senses, and he's just marching up and down the deck like a soldier on parade, and turning at the end and then marching again. He's reverted to a childhood state.
Bardol, with his history of being a seaman and also his care of skyships, is going to be walking around the deck and assessing the damage and seeing what's happened.
And Bennie glances around and is like, "Oh, where are we? Are we still at Bite Fingers?"
Before you is the ravaged landscape. Barely any vegetation, dusty cracked ground and swirling winds, lifting and spinning pockets of dirt into the air. Beyond the devastation is a thick blanket of mist, which obscures everything beyond 100 feet.
A veritable oasis,
says Vander, looking out across the wasted land.
Incorrect, Vander. An oasis requires water. This is a barren wasteland. I would estimate over 1,000 miles south of the Fingers.
The sight of the landscape somewhat snaps Augustus out of his reverie, and he goes to the rail and says, Vander, I recognize this place. I think this is Roanoke.
Welcome one and all to Dice Company Small Embers Chapter 49, where a group of friends weave tales of triumph, heroism and despair under the guise of playing Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Tom, and I'll be your DM through the continuing adventures of this reunited Order of the Heron. Reunited Order of the Heron, please introduce yourselves and tell us one fun fact about your characters.
Hello, I'm Dave, and I play Bennie Quez.
Hi, Dave.
Bennie's fact today relates to the special haircut shears. The special haircut shears were acquired during Bennie's youth from a pawn shop in Middleton, but they were not purchased from said pawn shop. The pawn shop was owned by an aging gnomish woman with very sight, and Bennie bragged to his friends that it would be an absolute doddle to steal these rather lovely silver shears, which he did. Yeah, they are stolen property. However, he went back. He snuck in at night after the pawn shop was closed and paid for the shears because he was feeling bad. He just wanted the acclaim of his friends.
Oh, God.
Bless your heart. I was going to say, I was appalled when you said you were stealing from blind people. I was proud from the rogue side. I was a little, appalled, but...
Just appalled from the beginning all the way to the end. I didn't think stealing from some poor gnomish woman could get worse, but actually paying for it because you felt bad. Christ.
What a rogue.
Weak.
Weak.
I was going for nuance, just got weak.
This is D&D. We don't have time for nuance.
That's it. Roll for initiative.
We've been playing for a year. Surely there's some time for nuance.
No, none at all. It's a packed schedule.
There's a smear of blood on the poop deck. There's a dead body off the side. There's a chinchilla. I mean, we've got no subtlety here whatsoever.
I don't know. I feel like the chinchilla represents the deep questions of life.
Was that English degree coming out?
I agree.
Oh, don't. Fine. Nuance everywhere.
Hello, I'm Beth from the podcast Roll for Imagination, and I'm currently playing Bella the Warlock. And my fun fact about Bella is that she has often admired owls. She thinks that they are very calm and wise, and that they must have a very peaceful life, sleeping in the day and hunting at night. If reincarnation is real, she hopes to return as an owl one day. Hopefully a much better life.
They can turn their heads all the way around as well.
And that. And that. More importantly, that one.
360 vision.
Exactly. Who wouldn't want that?
She's going to come back as an owl and realise that she's still working for Drusilla in the owl division. In fact, the hushed one could be an owl. They've got especially soft velvety feathers so that they fly silently. I went to a bird of prey show and I learned this.
There we go. It works perfectly. Although I think the whole point is that she would not be doing that anymore, rather than trying to find a way to make that work.
Exactly. Think how much more effective you could be if you died and came back as a Drusilla serving owl.
I don't know if that would be more effective. I don't know.
I love the idea that you could get reincarnated, like any of us could get reincarnated, but whatever you come back as, you still have to do your current job. Like, I'm an accountant, but now I'm also a cockroach.
Yeah, exactly. I think the whole point is it's supposed to be a fresh start.
Endless
which
possibilities.
animals would be best suited to do which jobs? What animal would make a good estate agent, do you reckon? Like, what animal would persuade you to buy a house by showing you around?
I was thinking a cat.
Cat.
Giraffes for window cleaners.
They could just lick the windows.
Like a daddy long legs would be hectic as hell. When if you had to follow one of those into a house, you're never selling it. That may be the worst combination.
We just keep bouncing into the windows in the conservatory, like you never get anywhere.
Yeah, and you're just knocking against your face.
Could you please show me the rest of the house? Or a moth. It just repeatedly flies into the light bulb.
I mean, this is such a rich conversational vein. Endless possibilities.
One of the weirder tangents I think we've ever been on. Good stuff, everyone.
Beth started it.
Hey, don't blame me. I didn't say anything about animals showing people around houses as estate agents. I just said Bella likes owls. You twisted that.
Owls would make good judges. Do you not think?
Great judges.
They'd make good security guards because of the head thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
True.
You
And the
sneak
night
up
vision.
behind a security guard at night and he just turns around and sees you straight away. And at night vision. Brilliant ears, I think, as well.
Scotty!
Hi, I'm Scott, and I'm playing Bardol Schultz. Bardol's fun fact this week is regarding his time on his ship when he travelled from Belvedere as a greenhorn. He was actually rather unpopular on the ship. Being a greenhorn, he was batting around and doing menial tasks, and he wasn't particularly good at it. Over time, he found a friend on the ship, a guy by the name of Glum, who was the ship's cook, and a part-time alchemist. But he would always make really strange potions, so things like super speed, but only for when you're chopping vegetables, invisibility that only worked if you were asleep, feather fall, but only if you fell into water. While he was with Glum, he found a potion that was apparently a failed attempt at the reduce spell, and all it would do is reduce you by about 50% or 30% of your mass. So he thought it was a huge failure. Bardol, being the smart fella, grabbed the little cachet of the failed potions and started taking them while he was on the ship to make him seem smaller. And this seemed to kind of make him more popular amongst the crew because they thought he was just a young lad trying his best. And suddenly everyone started to help him. And then when he made landfall, when he was fighting as a pit fighter, he realized that it allowed him the joy of having his opponents think he was weaker than he was. The unfortunate part of that is that now Bardol's cachet of potions has run out and Bardol may look slightly different to others.
Is Bardol really 9 feet tall?
Be honest with us. Is Bardol Gaston from Beauty and the Beast?
Potentially. He's like a Jack Reacher type, yeah. Like Arnie in Conan. Just an absolute monster of a man.
That is the second person in our group who has compared themselves to Gaston.
Mine was aspirational.
Now don't I groan, I eat 5 dozen eggs.
That was a phenomenal fact.
Hi, I'm Alex and I'm playing Augustus. And Augustus has had some bad days since meeting Bennie, Tock and Vander in that warehouse. But perhaps this last experience, the second air crash in a few weeks, not to mention all the other nightmarish things that happened, was the worst. He's now worried about his mental state. For example, as he bolted down through the ship, trying to avert the crash, he's pretty sure he saw Bella running upstairs carrying a chinchilla.
I think Augustus has good reason to be worried about his mental state.
I feel like the chinchilla is going to cause all sorts of problems, and I am here for it.
At this stage, Augustus is convinced that he hallucinated that and is going insane.
That's fantastic.
Well, fear not, the hare we spoke to last week assured us that it was going to be squirrel-based anarchy, so chinchillas is quite a nice change of pace.
Well, exactly. When he got downstairs, all of that info dump happened, and that's not exactly persuaded him that he's now completely on stable mental ground.
Hi, I'm Harry, and I play Tock, an imposing 6'8" automaton. So the recent trip to Concordia has left Tock rather keen to travel to other planes of existence. He has returned with quite the collection of samples, seeds, cuttings, and clippings. Time must be taken to properly investigate and catalogue it all. All the worlds can be turned into lists.
Is that Harry or Tock speaking, you think?
That line gets thinner every week, doesn't it?
They are one and the same.
He's like the Ace Rimmer of Excel.
Hi, I'm Charlie and I play Vander Finnick. Vander's mind keeps returning to the urchin who was killed in Deepmond. Pain has always been a great teacher, but it seems there are still lessons to learn as Vander feels a new kind of pain. That of indecision. Could he have done more? Yes. Should he have done more? Perhaps. And there it is, a ripping indecision that won't heal. There is something deeper though. The child reminds Vander of another he saw years ago. On that rain-swept night, when he saw Morticia, he only had eyes for her and the men around her. But years on, he now remembers a child holding Morticia's hand, the only one of the party, in fact, who looked at Vander directly. A face not unlike Morticia's, but green eyes. Eyes as fierce and as piercing as Vander's own.
Is the implication here that Vander has a child?
I couldn't say.
What?
Really stretching fun fact.
I mean, I have to know more.
Well, so we all.
Right, that's it. Making a note. Morticia Wesson's coming back next week.
Lore. Yes, huge lore drop.
We're going to get to the bottom of this. It's a Harry-like lore drop from orbit.
Very much so. The less cryptic, I guess.
You know the score by now. Discord for chatting, Patreon for supporting and benefits, official website dicecompanypodcast.com for merchandise. Links in the show notes and all across our incredible social media channels. In terms of merchandise, don't forget to check out the official Order of the Heron and official Ungovernables t-shirts. You too can be a member of either party. Quite why you'd want to is something completely different. A big thanks as always to Beth from the Roll for Imagination podcast for continuing with us. Don't forget to check out the podcast and enjoy the myths of Favalonia. And thank you to Scotty for joining us too. He's not from another podcast, but we should probably thank him anyway.
Hey!
And please remember, every parting gives a foretaste of death. Every reunion, a hint of resurrection. So let's turn the page to the next chapter of Dice Company. Previously on Dice Company, Kalen Lux is dead. Aurora is a mask weaver. Stephen Sakura is a chinchilla. And the Stormlord is gone. The automatons are deactivated, Drusilla's transported the ship miles away from its location, and to make matters worse, the Sterling crashed. No sooner had all that happened that Bennie, Tock and Bardol Schultz all clattered through the Dream Sapling into the galley. So not all bad news, but you are stranded in Roanoke with a broken ship, no air elemental, and terrible misty weather which heavily obscures your view in all directions.
I think this is Roanoke.
What gave it away? The ominous mist?
Augustus goes back to marching.
Too soon. Oh well. Now, to this business of the squirrel. I trust this is Serafina herself?
Indeed, Vander.
And is she now turned to stone for good?
That may be the case. There may be a remedy. Such a remedy is not in our possession.
I see. So, to remedy this situation, we must fix the ship.
That would appear to be correct, Vander.
Well then, it is good we have our chief carpenter back with us.
Bardol, your investigation of the Sterling reveals that there is a whopping great hole in the bow of the ship at the back, right next to where the capacitor is and the air elemental used to be housed.
Pretty sure bow's the front.
Cool, whatever it's called. The back. I only corrected on ships. My ship's knowledge is tight. The back bottom of the ship's got a hole in it.
The poop deck appears damaged.
Bennie has been looking like he's trying to work something out for a bit, and then suddenly says, hang on. Augustus said something about a murder, and everyone's here except Kaelin's not here. What's happened? What's happened, Augustus?
I think there was also a boat hook murder.
That is true.
Several of the prisoners from the Fingers are missing, Vander.
Where's Kaelin, Vander?
So many questions. There was indeed a boat hook security incident, but that was taken care of satisfactorily. Unfortunately, though, I am sad to report that Kaelin is no longer with us.
Vander, where has Kaelin departed for?
The next life, Tock. At the hands, I am afraid to say, of an imposter. The person we took, unfortunately, to be Aurora.
Yes, I'm afraid my sister transformed, killed Kaelin, and then changed her face several times before her face became entirely blank and she leapt from the ship. I assume, therefore, that it was not my sister. I've never seen her do this before.
Bloody shapeshifters.
What do you mean you assume it wasn't your sister? You don't recognize your own sister.
A shapeshifter, Bennie. It looked like my sister.
It looked like your sister.
Speaking of shapeshifters, there is one final security issue still to answer. Bella!
And Vander turns back to Bella.
How are we getting on with our friend there?
Bella has now put her cloak around it and is really kind of cradling it like a baby. We're getting on quite well. I'm kind of forgetting what the issue was.
You are aware, of course, that that is a human man.
Incorrect, Vander. It appears to be a small dog.
Incorrect, Tock. I'm afraid you haven't been following. This is a fugitive of the Fingers who appears to possess no small art in shapeshifting.
Incorrect, Vander. It's a chinchilla.
And the chinchilla then makes a little squeaking noise and opens its big, lamp-like eyes.
I think even when the chinchilla was a human man, he probably just needed a little bit of comfort.
Very trusting, Bella. I am a little lost for understanding, though, what your plan is for the future of this chinchilla.
I'm not sure, but I still think throwing it out the window was not going to be the best idea. I think we were looking for a box, right? But then maybe it's been a bit of time since then. How long do these sorts of spells usually last? This kind of magic?
I do apologize for the box incident,
says Vander, with some small acknowledgement of his mistake.
But a box is still perhaps a good idea.
He looks around the ruins of the ship.
That may take some time to fashion, though.
It's okay. I can hold him till then.
Of course.
Still on the deck of the ship, Vander looks down at the blood smear where presumably Kaelin's body was immediately before the crash. Turning back to the rest of the crew,
I am going in search of Kaelin's body. Basic physics tells me,
and Vander pauses,
that it's this way.
And he starts shuffling towards the front of the ship.
Bardol will go with Vander to help him carry back whatever body he finds.
And Augustus will follow you guys as well.
For those of you that are paying attention, as you see Bardol walk away for a moment, you may suspect that he looks slightly larger, certainly across the back and chest area. Similar, still same kind of height, but he's much larger, thicker around the legs and everywhere else. A very large, muscular gentleman now walking away from you.
Vander's one eye rose from top to bottom of Bardol
Bardol, it has been some time since I have had a drink, so I could, of course, be suffering the ravages of being sober, but it occurs to me that you have grown.
For a moment, Bardol actually looks down at himself. How embarrassing. Yes, a tiny game I've played for many years. A potion always made me appear much smaller. It was for deceit and beguiles. But yes, this is me, Mustang. Hello.
I see. Well, as a firm believer in deceit, I can hardly berate you for this decision, though I am surprised someone with your vitality for praise would hide such a impressive stature.
Can you imagine the glory if people knew my true size? They would never stop speaking. The roar would be heard all the way to Roanoke. Well, all the way here, I suppose. How odd. Funny how many times I've said that and been nowhere near here, and now it's kind of odd. Yes.
And as Augustus shuffles along at the back of this funeral/body searching procession, he can't help tensing his bicep to see if it's any bigger with all the working out he's been doing, and he is disappointed to discover that it is not.
Bennie, Bella, I have investigated the damage to the ship. I will reactivate the automatons, put them to work fixing it. I will be in my workshop. And then he leaves.
Bennie's quite distracted by all the recent news, so he just kind of waves vaguely at Tock and goes, yeah, all right, Tock, you crack on.
Bella, still holding Stephen Sakura, is going to walk over to Bennie and just say, I have 2 questions. Number 1, how do you feel about your bedroom here on the Sterling? Are you quite particular about it? Or, is it a safe space? I'm just curious.
Bennie's sort of looking out over the side and just sighs deeply and goes, Augustus has given it to you, hasn't he?
Yes. However, I feel like there might have been some confusion about the number of spare rooms on the Sterling, which of course I was not aware about. So I can move now that you are back, which is lovely. But yeah, I just wanted to, clear that air.
Bennie is not in a state to care about his room, so he just says, no, it's fine. There's space. I can sort myself out. You keep it. Don't worry.
Well, that's not what I meant. I just meant more. I just felt bad and didn't want it to be a surprise.
Oh no, you don't need to feel bad.
Okay, noted. Second question. I think Vander was going to help me find a box, and he's gone in search of a body instead. Do you know where I can find a box for the chinchilla? Because we've been trying to get this box for quite a while.
I reckon Tock could be the person. Check out Tock's workshop. He's got all sorts in there. Do you want me to go and have a look?
We did look in there. Actually, there was a box in there, wasn't there? Okay, I can go and have a look. Thank you. And she kind of just skips off in the direction of Tock's workshop with the chinchilla.
As she's leaving, Bennie goes, Bella, what?
Yes?
What are you planning on doing with that chinchilla?
I don't know. And she's going to walk back over. I just feel bad doing anything harmful to him. Before he was a chinchilla, he was a bit crazy, but I think he was overwhelmed with wild magic. I don't think it was his fault. I don't think that bringing harm to him would be the right thing to do here. I think we need to try and get him back to being Stephen and then help him. I just don't know how or when, because there's a lot going on.
Bennie nods and goes, yeah, I got an animal who's a bit weird as well, bit magic. And some folk round here aren't too keen on him, but he's done us good. I reckon maybe your chinchilla's the same. You want to, just take care of him, and I reckon it'll work itself out.
But could your magical animal turn back into a crazy, wild magic-filled person at any given moment?
I mean, gods know what my animal could do at any given moment. It's an absolute mystery to everyone. And actually, thinking about it, I've not seen him for a while, so clicks his fingers so that Lenny hopefully appears.
And with a pop, Lenny appears on the poop deck and begins to run around your feet.
Yeah, here he is. Trouble himself.
Lovely. What does he do?
Lenny, don't eat the chinchilla.
Bella holds Stephen's Cora protectively.
Pick my fingers to get Lenny to disappear again, because looks like it could be a problem.
Anyway, I feel like the box might be a safer space right now. So, I'll catch you later.
Sound thinking.
And she goes back off to find Tock's workshop again.
As you make your way through the misty landscape of Roanoke with the cracked ground and the swirls of dust, you see rolled up into a broken ball the remains of Kalen Lux.
Vander shuffles forward with some solemnity now and regards the body of Kalen.
He was one of the few Rojans I truly respected,
says Vander, regarding the broken body.
Terribly sorry, Mustang. It's always hard losing those that meant something to us. Allow me, and Bardol will kneel down by the body and begin trying to kind of lay him flat and, kind of get him back into a human body shape, and then lift him off the ground.
Augustus will help with that.
Thank you, gentlemen,
says Vander, turning away from the sight of Kalen being laid out for the last time.
Vander, as you look around the barren wasteland, your passive perception draws your eye to a singular, gnarled and petrified tree stood at the base of a cliff. It's not particularly impressive, but it is at least noticeable.
Turning back to the small procession, Vander speaks.
Gentlemen, it appears that this is the only place we may lay poor Kalen to rest. It may not seem much, but we must not forget this is the land of Roanoke, and therefore, in its own way, rather suiting.
You wish to lay him beneath the tree and cover him in a cairn, or use the tree to burn the body?
I wish to bury him at the foot of the tree. I believe that's what he would have wanted.
So be it. Bardol will help to gently put the body on the ground, and then using his two hand axes, begin chopping at the ground to make it easier to dig.
As Vander observes the mad chopping with axes.
The death of a Rojan used to be a matter of state. The great Rojans of the past were buried in huge processions. It is a mark of these sad times that Kalen's passing is marked by this.
Looking out from the deck, Bennie can see that Bardol is sort of preparing the ground for a burial, and he shouts, "Oi! Are you all just burying him like that without calling the rest of us? No ceremony or nothing?"
Vander turns. The distance is difficult for someone of Vander's voice to carry, but he beckons to Bennie.
Bennie shouts back, Wait a minute. Tock will want to be here too," and ducks down below to go and fetch Tock and also Bella.
Bella, you have arrived at Tock's workshop. The door is wide open, and the previously deactivated automatons are now up and running.
Hello, Bella. How can I help you?
Hi, Tock, right?
That is correct. I am Tock.
I'm Bella. I know we kind of met, but I feel like we didn't really get a chance to meet before you kind of vanished. This might be a bad time. I'm just looking for a box.
What kind of box? Size? Dimensions?
She holds forward the chinchilla and just says, big enough to contain a chinchilla, but with holes maybe, so it can breathe.
I find this to be acceptable. Tock turns around and picks up a suitable box and punches some air holes into it with a finger.
Perfect. Thank you, Tock. That was a lot more helpful than previous attempts. And she places the box on the floor and places Stephen's Cora inside the box and closes it firmly. And then, if I look around, is there anything that I can put on top of the box for good measure just so that he couldn't kind of get out?
Tock's workshop is full of chunks of metal and wood which could easily be placed on the lid of the box.
Okay, so she kind of motions her hands towards one of those and then kind of looks at Tock for reassurance. Can I use this?
I find that to be acceptable.
Thank you. And she places it on top of the box.
And just then, Bennie arrives.
We're We're going to bury Kaelin or something. We thought you might want to be here. Follow me over to where it's going to take place.
I find that to be acceptable.
Bennie, do you want me to come too? Of course I didn't know him. I don't want to intrude.
You should come if you want to. Don't feel like you've got to, but if you want to come, come.
Okay. She nods solemnly and she'll follow.
And the three of you head off the Sterling down to the misshapen and ugly tree in the middle of the wasteland. Tock, followed by Tick and automatons 1 and 2, as well as Otis, arrive and make short work of digging the grave.
You're welcome. I got it started for you. Do carry on. And Bardol will stand next to Augustus by the body of Kaelin.
Well, Augustus is trying to help with the digging because he can't really bear just to stand there because he feels a bit responsible for this one. And so, even though he can see the automatons are doing a far better job, he can't bear not to be digging at this stage.
While the digging is going on, Vander leans down to Kaelin and, taking a small knife from his belt, he cuts a lock of Kaelin's hair off. Standing to look back at the group.
Some part of Kaelin must come home with us. It would be important, I believe, for the priestesses.
And after a couple of minutes, the grave is dug.
Is anybody going to say a few words or something? That's what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, Bardol's just going to help Augustus, I'm assuming Augustus, lower the body into the grave and just begin quietly filling him in.
Vander takes a small pace forward. Pausing a second to think of Kaelin and all their memories together, he then speaks.
This I would ascribe to few men. Kaelin was, from the first moment we met to his last moment, a truly good man. As a Rojan, he stood above many who thought themselves greater. Kaelin was strength without fierceness, wise without arrogance, and accepting of his path. Indeed, he never claimed the power he could have had. For this I say now, I have met no finer protector of those principles the Rojan hold dear.
Welcome, strangers, to Haven.
Vander Finnick, a pleasure to meet you.
Kaelin Lux, a pleasure to meet you too. Vander, you used to be someone who wouldn't let the innocent suffer at the hands of others, someone who stood for something. I believe you're still that man, somewhere deep inside this broken shell. But you have found yourself, whether through luck or judgment, in the company of some truly exceptional people. It has become clear to me that your safety and survival is paramount. You have allowed yourself to wallow in self-pity for too long, I fear, but I see the truth. I see inside your eye. You're still in there, old friend. Safe travels.
You too, my friend.
I hear you've decided to be a twat and stick around?
I figured the more time that we could buy you, the better. And if I may say, I'm sorry that you and I did not get to know each other better, Mr. Bennie Quez.
You rescued me.
We did, Kaelin. We owed you a debt.
Have you ever been in love, Augustus?
No, Kaelin.
You are fortunate. Love is all-consuming. It makes you do stupid things. Salazar cannot be defeated with simple arcane tricks. He must be stopped from finding the heirlooms he seeks.
There's no bards on ship, Kaelin. No one's going to write any songs. Why don't you just not get yourself killed and come with us?
Broken is a state of mind, Vander. Just a state of mind.
Looking down, Vander sighs.
You will be missed, old friend.
Vander then fumbles in his robes, seeming to search for something.
Usually I would play a lament at this point. I'm afraid, though, that most of my musical instruments have been destroyed in the crash.
He pulls from his pocket the only instrument he has on his person, which is a slide whistle. Looking at the whistle with some trepidation.
I will attempt to play what I believe Kaelin would have wanted to hear.
So, DM, I'm going for a lament, a deeply sad and memorable piece of music. I don't know what you'd like me to do in terms of rolling for that.
I would like you to give me a performance check, please.
Oh my god. It's a 4.
Oh no, you own that, Chuck. That's 2 natural ones in a row is what that is.
That's 2 natural ones in a row. Okay, with grace and a somber expression, Vander raises the slide whistle to his broken lips and begins to play.
And Augustus sort of stiffens in the way that if at a funeral the priest was saying something about the deceased and then it became embarrassingly obvious that they got them muddled up with someone else, but you can't stop the thing to correct them. It's just hugely awkward and embarrassing for everyone and completely ruins the occasion, but he can't stop it now, so Augustus just stands there and assumes the music will eventually stop.
Bennie looks absolutely furious and just under his breath just says, "Vander, stop it now."
Yeah, Bardol's looking equally as uncomfortable and is just staring at his shoes, waiting for the lament to end.
Vander also looks quite uncomfortable and stops playing what is ultimately a very short lament.
Maybe if we all just have a moment of silence with our memories of Kaelin instead of whatever that was.
I find that to be acceptable.
Augustus grips the stone that he was given way back on the steam runner, I hate to say this, but from the Hooker Prophet, and listens out for Tyr's voice. He feels very lost, and he doesn't want to kind of make this a Tyr religious ceremony, but he feels like it's a moment to kind of pray, and he listens to see, waits to see whether Tyr has anything to say.
Roll a D100 for me.
All right. This better not be a dragon.
A dragon pops out of the slide whistle.
44.
You hear nothing.
So as you're all taking a moment of silence, Tock takes a glowing seed from the bag of holding and slips it into the loose earth around Kaelin's grave. It is a Jerima seed. Let the tree grow where Kaelin is planted.
A fine gift, Tock,
Vander says seriously. After a moment has passed, Vander's head raises and he looks again around at the bleak landscape.
I believe it would be best to leave the automatons to work on the ship. I personally would like to spend the night inland.
Vander, you spot a rocky outcrop around 60 feet away from where you are.
I appreciate it isn't much, but perhaps we could shelter over there tonight.
Well, yes, Mustang, from where we've been recently, it would be very nice to spend an evening under stars that are at least of our own plane. Yes, I will happily join you outside.
Indeed, this land is not much, but I do believe it to be peaceful.
And suddenly keen to leave the graveside, Augustus turns away and starts walking in the direction Vander has indicated.
And Vander follows.
Bella's going to also follow.
Benny's slightly confused as to why we're spending the night outdoors when there's a perfectly good ship, but decides to follow along.
I feel the same emotion every time I see people camping.
To be fair, there's holes in that ship. It's kind of like being outside anyway.
Tock is going to send the automatons to continue repairs, and he is going to disappear into his workshop.
It is the middle of the night after quite the day for you all. Bardol has lit a small campfire and you are sat around it. Above you, the mist has cleared slightly, revealing the starry night sky, although the ominous mist still surrounds the crash site.
Vander turns to Bennie.
Bennie, my mind could use some distracting, and I have questions. When I last saw you, you were comported through a portal summoned from thin air. I would be intrigued to know who created that and what befell you.
Well, turns out the portal were created by Seraphina. She'd been keeping an eye on us all along, and when it looked like things were going wrong, she started to pull us out at fingers, but I don't quite know what happened, but I think she used too much magic, and that's why she got turned to stone. The god of magic punished her or something.
I see.
We ended up on a plane called Concordia, which didn't really understand it. Not quite our world, not quite Fey world, but there were some strange things going on there.
A mid-place.
I don't know how Serafina knew where we were, but she did.
I see, says Vander, his eye narrowing.
And how did you return from such a place?
We earned a boon from the Queen at Forest. She'd got some sort of portal situation all worked out. Old Lionheart, he used to pop back and forth, apparently, back in day, and we were able to use that to get back to our world. I'm not quite sure how we ended up on Stirling, but we did.
Vander seems to be putting the threads of the story together.
I believe I understand, then, at least, the bones of what took place. A very interesting trip, then, Bennie. And now, of course, we must find a way of restoring Serafina.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, isn't it? She's not protecting Sanctuary while she's like that.
No, indeed. A vexing new issue to consider.
Augustus, may I have a word?
Of course. Augustus is just staring at the fire, looking a bit blank.
Heard what you said earlier about your sister being a face-changing crazy witch or something?
Something like that, Bardol. It cannot have been my sister, of course, but I was foolish enough to believe it was.
Well, fear not. Many men have been tricked by, well, I don't know what we call them, face changers or doppelgangers or what have you. Found myself in many a sticky wicket with something I saw was a taco and turned out to be a hot dog, if you know what I mean. Anyway, what I was actually driving at, before we got off on a terrible tangent, was, I believe, for a moment, in the fairy tale world, I was introduced very briefly to someone who claimed to be Aurora Zeno.
In Concordia?
Indeed. It seemed... I cannot remember the bones of it. My brain was rather scrambled at the time. I'd just been spat out on the ground by a pink vortex. But she had somehow found herself there by venturing here in Roanoke.
Yeah, she looked the same as whoever it was we met in Fingers.
And she also seemed to have no memory of ever meeting Bennie or Tock.
No, she'd never met us before.
Obviously, she knew who I was, Lady of the World, etc.
She didn't, obviously.
No, I jest. I purely jest. I'm trying to raise the spirits after the rather solemn day we've had today. But she seemed bold. She ran willingly into the tear, threw herself in, fine adventurous spirit. Smoke me a kipper, I'll be back for breakfast, I believe she said, before she threw herself in.
That could certainly be my sister, but having misidentified some creature as my sister, I find myself less confident in saying who or whether that could have been Aurora.
I understand. Once bitten, twice shy and all that. There is hope, though, perhaps.
Bennie's been sitting looking like he's sort of been ticking, and then just says, "But how couldn't you know? How would you not know? It's not your sister."
And Augustus's head just kind of falls down to his chest.
Bennie, be not too hard on him. And from what I know of these doppelgangers, they have the ability to delve into one's mind and know things that perhaps they should not. Even when questioned by suspecting loved ones, they're able to hold up to any manner of questioning and situations. And also, I'm sure Augustus was overjoyed at merely seeing his long-lost sister and emotions, etc. Let's not be too hard on him.
And Augustus says, I feel like a fool. I feel responsible for Kaylin's death. I'm ever in the wrong place. My back turned at the wrong moment.
Yeah. And stands up and just takes a few steps away from the fire and just kind of stands on his own for a bit.
He is taking the death of Kaylin very hard. I see. They were close?
I suppose so, says Augustus without raising his head.
Back at the fireside, Vander turns to Bella.
Bella, I see you no longer have Stephen with you. I wonder where you've left him.
Well, actually, Vander, Tock was able to find a box quite rapidly and make it a suitable enclosure for Stephen. So he is comfortably in Tock's workshop.
Vander chuckles.
Very good. I was meaning to speak to you on another matter, though. Maybe the crash jogged my memory, but I do recall reading some texts years ago. Something that reminded me of your,
Vander pauses,
situation, so to speak. At the time I read these texts, I was not myself aware of spells and such like, but I still remember what they claimed to be. They called themselves severing spells, and they claimed to be able to part even the most committed, we'll call them partners. I wonder, would such a spell interest you?
Bella leans forward. I'm listening. Tell me more about this severing spell.
Well, the books they came from, I'm afraid, had a macabre note to them. I believe such spells require their own form of sacrifice, and I'm afraid their precise incantations elude me. But I do know that they exist, and perhaps, were you to find such a text, you could take control of that bond you are so very conflicted about.
I could, but I don't know how much you remember from the text that you've read. What would that mean for me? Would I lose all of my magic?
I believe not. The spell frees the caster, but at a price. I'm afraid I do not know the context of such spells, only that they are difficult to conjure. I wonder, though, do you truly seek to be free?
I think that's a very complicated question, Vander. I think yes and no. Right now, yes, I do. Do I believe I'm free right now? No. Part of me, maybe a dark part of me, feels like I have more to learn from my patron and from Drusilla, but I also feel like I have so much to learn here. This is where the conflict is coming in, and then I think about other people and the things that I will do if I go back. And I don't know. I think part of me isn't even thinking that far ahead because I know that I have to go back.
Well, there are, of course, dark parts to us all, Bella.
Vander nods in the direction of Kaelin's grave.
Except for an exceptional few, of course. A difficult question lies before you, then. Learning, though, is a noble goal. If I had any advice, it would be this. I believe that you must choose, and choose soon, because the lack of choosing will leave you torn between these two paths. I've not believed for some time now that the destination is the most important goal in life, but rather the journey. Perhaps you will choose soon, and hopefully choose well.
I like that. That's a nice way of thinking. I haven't really heard something like that before. I think what I really want, Vander, is a loophole. I want something where the choice isn't go back or don't. The choice isn't join them or don't join them. The spell you mentioned maybe will help, but I fear that that will be hard to attain. But I'll have a think. I'll see what I can do. I think the other problem that I have is Drusilla doesn't want me here. That's very clear. She said I can stay, but she doesn't want me here. I believe that she's the reason that we're here in Roanoke. I believe that she transported us here as a flex of her power or a warning or something, but that won't be it. There'll be more things, and it's like there's this countdown, but I don't know how long the time is set for.
Vander looks round at the wasteland all around the party.
This isn't it. Drusilla plans more, he says, raising a skeptical eyebrow. Well, I'll be fascinated to see her next move. But you speak of wishing to have your cake and eat it. I am also a fan of this philosophy. Just because a thing is hard does not mean it isn't worth pursuing with every fibre of your being. Look at me, for example.
And Vander spreads his gnarled arms wide.
I am a living proof that you can indeed do many things that people don't expect.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'll bear that in mind. Let me have a think. Hopefully, I can get some inspiration before Drusilla's next move, because although, and Bella also looks around, although you think that this is something bad that Drusilla has done, trust me, this is nothing. She's capable of much worse, Vander.
Vander laughs again.
Oh, I think you'll find the limits of my imagination are hard to reach. And as I said, Bella, I am most of all a journeyman at heart, and I like to find the small wonders in each situation. Speaking of which...
And Vander produces a grotesquely malformed piece of chocolate.
I was able to save this small morsel of delicious, gooey chocolate, as proof, if nothing else, that even the dimmest situations have their little surprises.
And Vander's hand stretches out.
Would you like a gob of chocolate?
I have to be honest, Vander, I've never had this before.
Well, then you are in for a treat of epic proportions.
Okay, yeah, sure. And Bella will take some of the chocolate query from Vander.
Vander smiles with all three of his teeth and takes the remaining chocolate and scoops it into his misshapen mouth.
Oh, that is a delight for the senses.
Watching Vander eat his, Bella now will eat hers, and just nods in agreement and looks pensively out at the wasteland.
The next week passes as you all get whatever rest you can in your makeshift camp outside the Sterling. The automatons continue their work through the day and night, although it can be difficult to determine which is which, with the blanket of fog surrounding the area becoming thicker every day. Taking it in turns to forage for food, most of you remain outside for the duration. It occurs to a few of you that none of you have seen Tock, as he's been locked away in his workshop. Tock, what have you been up to?
So whilst no one has actually seen Tock, they will have noticed repairs happening to the ship, to the Sterling, and also a few new items in the mess. So next to Tock's little sort of group of plants that have been growing, centered around the centerpiece, which is the small glowing Jarima sapling with a pillar around the pot. There are some new additions. There appears to be what looks like a pile of rotting wood, possibly taken from the Sterling. On the wood, there is some dark purple lines spreading over it, slightly alarmingly. On some of the dark purple lines, eventually after the 2 weeks, there'll be little like white buds appearing, little like mushrooms. So after 2 weeks, the white like little buds will turn into a bulbous cap and a stem, which looks a bit like edible field mushrooms of the type that people in our world will have seen in the supermarket. Huh. Unlike supermarket mushrooms, they will be releasing some blue spores from under the cap, which are airborne and probably harmless. But they permeate basically the whole of the mess and, in fact, a large amount of the Sterling, just sort of floating tiny little specks that just glow faintly blue.
I feel like probably he's doing a lot of lifting in that sentence.
Probably he's very good at lifting. Goes to the gym on the regular. There are some other samples that Tock has taken from Concordia and has been trying to propagate. There is another pot with a green creeping moss that has sort of like about 4 inches of tendrils. They're very strange. They seem to like flow in a breeze that isn't quite there, just gently. If any of the crew go up to like investigate them, they smell oddly kind of like fatty, like a little bit like frying bacon, but really faint. They seem to be doing quite well growing on some soil. There are a number of pots that haven't got any thing, and they obviously had a seed put in that hasn't quite germinated yet. Mm-hmm. There's another couple of pots. So there's has germinated with a green leaf, and what looks like a small corn on the cob seems to be growing out of it. It smells really strongly of biscuits. Lenny the dog has definitely noticed this plant. And finally, there's it's not actually in the original pot that it was meant to be growing in, but just around it seems to be like a little bit like a creeper has been spreading across the walls of the mess. It's got about 2 foot or so far, with some thick spines, and it's like ivy. It's sort of like attached to the surface.
So the interior of the Sterling is starting to look more and more like a natural, almost forest landscape.
Well, certainly one corner of the mess has been entirely taken over by Tock now. But it's okay, because all of the glassware that was in that corner in the cabinet has been taken already. By the time 2 weeks are up, Tock has been harvesting some of the green creeping moss. I don't know if any of the crew are going to ask him about it, but it is Gibellion laputines. That's the name that Tock has given it. The bioluminescent fungi, Tock has named Neocapheric concordi. The strange kind of like brambling creeper ivy, Tock has named the Dyson tree. And the kind of biscuity corn on the cob is a voodoo lily, Draconolus vulgaris.
Beautiful. Another 11 days pass, and the foraging has become sparser and less fruitful.
Vander shambles back into now the waning firelight of a fire that has clearly been lit for weeks.
Well, it is lucky for the abundance of edible slugs in this area. Otherwise, this little journey into the wilderness would have been a complete disaster,
he says, throwing a handful of slugs next to the fire, ready for roasting.
Here we are again. Edible bloody slugs. See what's happened now?
Yes, Bardol, edible slugs. You'll be surprised to learn there was little else on my hunting escapade.
No, I'm not surprised, Mustang. No, it's been 13 days, and every day you've returned with edible slugs. Every day I've returned with edible slugs. Edible slugs is what we eat now. This is the world that we live in.
Yes, and what is better is that I have been sober for a full 12 days, so every movement is another unquenchable agony.
And Vander sits down on the log, shivering.
Bardol reaches into his jacket and just pulls out his cigarette case and opens it gingerly, and inside there is one remaining cheroot.
Vander's eye fixes on Bardol like a sniper scope.
I have been saving this for breaking point, Mustang.
Bardol.
I fear we may be close. And he just puts it into his mouth, and the snap of his tinderbox just lights it and sits down next to Mustang.
Bennie trudges over. All right, gents. I've been working on a poem. Do you want to hear it?
Why not?
It's called Sadness.
Oh, God. Passes the cheroot to Vander.
Oh, it don't matter.
No, please, Bennie. Honestly, sincerely, I would like to hear it.
Yes, please, Bennie, tell us your...
Vander takes an inhuman pull.
feelings.
What's the opposite of gladness? This deep blue feeling in my heart. I do believe they call it sadness. I can only get fart to rhyme with heart, so I need to work on it. But what do you think?
I love it so far, Bennie.
A masterpiece. It's like you painted the landscape in words.
I don't know if it's the slugs, but I could almost taste the poetry.
Well, Sebastian, I thought he spoke really impressively about poetry. I thought I should give it a go, but I don't know. I don't know if it's for me.
Sebastian?
Vander queries.
Are we naming the slugs?
The rabbit in Concordia. I've told you about Sebastian.
Ah, yes, the rabbit. How silly of me.
He was a hare, Sebastian Longpaw.
That's the one, aye. What's happening with you, Bardol? You do look different, don't you? You've looked a bit different every day.
Yes, Bennie, it's a tasty trick I had as a pit fighter that I frankly became a habit. It was a potion that I was imbibing to make me appear smaller and less intimidating for the people fighting me. Good for odds and other things, but my stock seemed to have run out now we're in Roanoke, and frankly I prefer being my My true size, yes. But this is me now. I feel better, more honest. Can't wait for Rosie to see me, quite frankly.
Who's Rosie?
A companion of mine, Bennie.
Oh, of course. Don't tell me any more, Bardol. I don't want to know.
It's nothing like that, Bennie. Honestly, it's partners, friends.
You must be missing your squeeze, Bennie, says Vander. Come on now, just the boys here, sharing stories by the campfire, and sharing slugs as usual.
Gonna go work on my poem.
Yes, please do. It was such a roaring success in its opening lines. I can't wait to hear the thrilling conclusion.
I wrote that off the cuff, I'll have you know.
Improv, all the more impressive. Augustus,
Vander says, looking over the fire at Augustus.
Did you catch Bennie's lyrical genius?
Augustus takes a deep, unsteady breath and then takes a handful of slugs and stuffs them in his mouth.
A wise response. And Bella?
Bella had been just for a little walk and does reappear at this exact moment. And she looks down at the pile of slugs and just sighs and sits down. Missed what?
Ah, well, your power to foretell the future is clearly working well, as you have just missed the entertainment for this evening. Don't worry, you're probably better for it.
Yeah, devastated.
Fear not, there are plenty of slugs left, Bella. Please, help yourself.
I cannot stomach another slug.
I know.
How long are we going to stay here, eating slugs? Surely you can't be enjoying them. It's not just me, right?
No! This is not the life that Bardol Schultz was created for!
Exactly!
We should be adventuring. If I'm to die in this wasteland, is it the tip of a spear, the end of a beast's claw, or something? I cannot lay here languishing any further in the sliminess that is this slug-driven hell of a place.
Taking it well as ever, Bardol. I'm afraid, though, that the weather bends to no man, and we must wait for the mists to clear.
We are in Roanoke, Mustang. I fear the mists will never clear! And Bardol just grabs the cheroot bag from him and storms over to the whatever is nearby and hunks down and just smokes, huffing.
Vander follows, completely besotted with the idea that there is still smoking to be done.
Of course, Bardol. Wise words.
And sits down next to him.
Bardol takes a big pole, passes it to Vander. Bardol stands, and you can feel him almost buzzing with energy as he stomps blindly into the mist and just screams, "Enough of this!" And you feel there's a small 15-foot cube of force is hurled from him, and the mist parts momentarily.
And through the parted mist, Vander, your eyes fall upon a rickety old building with a roughly drawn sign outside, which reads, "The Tavern at the End of the World." And we will end it there.
You've been listening to Dice Company's Small Embers, starring Dave Windust as Bennie Quez, Alex Morrison as Augustus Zeno, Charlie Blackadder as Vander Finnick, Scott Parker as the greatest swordsman who has ever lived, Bardol Schultz, Beth as Bella Clearvale, and Harry King as Tock, with Tom Patrick as your dungeon master.
The humans of Dice Company would like to thank the following sweethearts for their support. Marshall 001, Marky B, Darcy Thompson, Jenny the War Camel, Stephen Sakura, Nori Gosler, Mickey Arnold, Happy Daddy Scotty, Tika, SJ Phionics, Richard Ungamus, Rabbi Camel, Team Vander, Paris Pakar, Path Pursuit, Julia Zeno, Shovels, Mama Strange, Queenie, Liz Beckett, Axel Runholm, and Chris from North London.
Does Charlie not know he's not muted?
Sorry, I'm just fucking around with Audacity.
It's like talking with like lift music.
It's just Charlie, isn't it?
Bella! Are you all right?
He shuffles towards you.
Vander, a successful admiral may not have crashed.
Fuck off, Tock!
Bella said we should kind of take the
Keep
kind of
him
more
as a
passive,
pet.
sort of. And then I said get in a box, and I unleashed
Well,
the
you said
flintlock.
throw it out the window.
Yes, I did.
Then you shot my hand, and then we decided to put it in a box. Then we never got to the box part.
You said throw it out the window and then you shot my hand. Vander, your reply.
I was going to say, that is why in the great game of conversational poker, I am holding 2-7 and have nothing to say further in this call. So we're keeping the chinchilla.
Someone said it to me the other day, and I was like, I've heard that recently. What is that? And then I remembered, when you're laying in the gutter, some of us are looking up at the stars.
Yeah.
Apparently it's Oscar Wilde. I was like, you sneaky little bitch. I love it. I like it.
You'll figure out that 95% of the things I say are just regurgitated from books, film,
No, I
and
like
TV.
it. That's the point. I like it when I am actually smart enough occasionally to catch one. That one got by me, but someone helped me. A kind adult came by and helped me with my homework.
For a stranger to come past and say, nice chinchilla, what's it called? Stephen Sikora.
I think we need to get someone to name their real-life pet after one of the characters or animals from Dice Company.
I'm definitely going with Steve Sikora.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If someone got a chinchilla and called it Steven Sikora, I would lose my mind.
I don't know if I'd be delighted about that if I was Steven Sikora.
You'd love it.
If we started naming pets after him.
I'd be so psyched if a podcast I listened to took my name and did something as weird as making it a chinchilla.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I would describe the chocolate, but, it's slightly melted pocket chocolate. I mean,
That's what I was imagining.
Never take pocket chocolate from Vander. You don't know if he's been sucking on it or gnawing on it. Oh, no.
Bella's too naive to think of that.
Called Fabulous.
Oh, God. Passes the cheroot to Vander.
Oh, it don't matter.
No, please, Benny.
No, I don't
Honestly,
know.
sincerely, I would
Don't
like to hear it. I would like to hear it.
Yes, please, Benny, tell us your...
Vander takes an inhuman. I love the poem, Shags. I absolutely
great.
love
Amazing.
it.
Brilliant.
What's the opposite of gladness?
I like that you said, please no one ask me about it because I haven't written one, and everyone went, okay, what is it?
I mean, to be fair, if you say, I'm going to do a poem in this abusive circle of friends, you're going to have to recite an effing poem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was awesome.
Should have been obvious.
What's the opposite of that?
I've got a song ready. Oh, my.
The heaviest foreshadowing of all time was achieved in that sentence. Couldn't even be bothered to tell us where you are.
I'm a generic somebody from wherever I'm from.
I have feelings. They're not important enough to relay, but they're there.
My motivations are clear to me. I'm a Cockney Goblin.
Lore.
Thanks for listening. Please consider supporting Dice Company on Patreon, where for the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to a whole other show, Extra Roll, as well as an ad-free listening experience. The Dice Company Discord server, along with our socials, can be found on our link tree in the show notes. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to recommend us to your friends. If you didn't like it, recommend us to your enemies. And we'll see you next time on Dice Company.